Ever wonder what it takes to lead a tech giant through, like, decades of change? I mean, from the early internet to, the whole cloud revolution. Today, we're diving deep into the mind of Jeff Tepper.
Oh, yeah?
The driving force behind Microsoft Teams and SharePoint.
Hey, we're going deep on this one, going straight to the source.
Mm-hmm.
An exclusive interview on the On the Ball podcast.
Oh, nice.
If you're not familiar, they are known for really pushing their guests to share those nuggets of wisdom you won't hear anywhere else. So we're going to get some really good stuff here.
Exactly. So forget the typical highlight reel, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're talking about like a backstage pass to over 25 years of leadership at Microsoft products used by over 1 billion people. It's kind of wild.
This isn't just about what he achieved, though. It's about how he thinks, We're going to unpack his leadership philosophy, how he navigates those like make or break moments.
Right.
And even some of the unexpected advice that's shaped his journey.
Yeah. And let's be real. Who wouldn't want to pick the brain of someone who's spent their entire career at a company like Microsoft?
Yeah, right.
Tepper's seen it all firsthand, from the early days of Windows to, well, today. But here's the thing that really grabbed me. His path at Microsoft wasn't some straight climb, up the corporate ladder. It takes some interesting turns, which I think makes it even more relevant to, our listeners, no matter where you are in your own journey, right?
It's true. He started out as a developer evangelist, then moved to marketing, then circled back to software engineering.
Wow.
He even took what some might call a step back to learn new skills along the way.
Imagine having the guts to do that, especially at a company like Microsoft. I mean, that's really something. It shows you, you don't have to be afraid to change lanes.
For sure.
Or even, seemingly go backward to get ahead.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
He ends up leading the creation of SharePoint. Get this, starting with just a small team within Microsoft Office.
Really?
Battling internal skepticism the whole way, I might add.
Oh, I bet.
Then he heads up corporate strategy for a bit before ultimately returning to his roots in product development.
Wow.
This isn't just job hopping. It's strategic career building at its finest.
Yeah.
Really impressive.
So what's the takeaway for for you listening right now? Don't be scared to take a perceived step back if it means acquiring valuable new skills or, broadening your experience.
Exactly. And be open to unexpected opportunities.
Yeah.
Tepper saw a gap, a need to connect intranets with document management and search.
Yeah.
And boom, SharePoint was born.
Wow.
It's a great reminder that sometimes the most obvious ideas are the ones no one has, capitalized on yet.
It's like that Steve Jobs quote, right? People don't know what they want until you show it to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that leads us to a pivotal moment in Tepper's career.
Yeah.
His decision to move SharePoint to the cloud.
Yes.
This wasn't a no-brainer like it might seem now.
Right.
This is a bold move. And he faced resistance from both inside and outside Microsoft.
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't just a simple upgrade. Back then, the cloud wasn't this ubiquitous thing, It was still kind of uncharted territory. And Tepper had to fight against the old guard internally at Microsoft, where some teams were stuck in the, Office doesn't do servers mindset. But get this. Even some of Microsoft's biggest customers were putting on the brakes, saying they didn't want their stuff floating around in the cloud.
Yeah, talk about a classic case of the innovator's dilemma. If you're not familiar, it basically says that sometimes listening too closely to what your current customers say they want can actually stifle true innovation.
Really?
True leaders, they anticipate the needs of tomorrow, not just today, even if it means pushing back on some of your biggest clients.
That's a tough position to be in.
It is.
To tell people, no, you're wrong.
It takes guts.
But to be right, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And pushback he did. Tepper really put his neck on the line for his vision. And it's a good thing he did. Rewriting the entire architecture of core products. Think Exchange, SharePoint, and eventually Teams for the cloud.
Right.
All while ensuring it's seamlessly integrated with what existing customers already had.
Yeah, wow.
Was no small feat. Seriously, imagine the logistical nightmare, not to mention the technical challenges. Looking back now, especially with how crucial cloud-based tools became during the pandemic,
Oh, for sure.
it's clear just how important that decision was. Imagine if businesses hadn't had those tools to stay connected and keep things running.
Chaos, right.
Yeah.
And it highlights Tepper's foresight and his willingness to fight for what he believed in, even when it wasn't the popular choice.
That's the sign of a true leader, isn't it? Now, shifting gears a bit, I was blown away by some of the efficiency hacks Tepper shared in the interview. I mean, here's a guy who runs multiple major product divisions.
Right.
So he has to be doing something right to manage it all, right?
Oh, he definitely has some tricks up his sleeve. And they're not what you'd expect.
Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
All right, I'm intrigued.
All right, first up, zero inbox.
What?
You heard me right.
Zero.
Zero. Can you even imagine?
No?
He's a devout user of Microsoft To Do,
Okay.
keeping his work list capped at a Spartan. 7 items.
7.
Just 7.
I have like 7,000.
This is all about ruthless prioritization, which is something we can all learn from. It's about knowing what truly matters and ruthlessly cutting out the noise. 7 items. It makes my to-do list look like a Tolstoy novel. But it makes you think, right, how much clearer could our focus be if we were that disciplined about what we allowed on our plate?
Right. It's about quality over quantity, for sure. And that focus extends to his communication style, too. Are you ready for this? Tipper is known for preferring to read detailed reports over sitting through presentations.
Now, that one surprised me. Who would have thought the head of Microsoft Teams would prefer reading over a good slide deck?
Well, it makes sense when you think about it. He's not afraid to roll up his sleeves and dive into the data himself. He wants to understand the why behind the what, not just get a glossy overview. Word is, he's been known to catch teams off guard with, I read your deck, now let's talk about these 3 data points.
He goes straight to the heart of the matter, no time wasted.
Exactly. And he wants to see the raw insights, the kind you get from digging into the data with a tool like Power BI. That's Microsoft's data visualization software, by the way. It just shows you he values data-driven decisions and trusts his team to bring him the real story, not a sugar-coated version.
It's a great lesson for anyone, really. Don't be afraid to roll up your sleeves, dig into the details, ask tough questions. Now, speaking of balance, Tepper is also a big advocate for work-life balance, which I think is so important, especially in the fast-paced tech world. He believes in setting boundaries, taking vacations, actually taking them, and pursuing passions outside of work. Did you know he plays guitar and is an avid runner?
It's a good reminder for all of us that there's more to life than just work, right? Even someone like Jeff Tepper, at the top of his game, makes time for those things that bring him joy and help him recharge. It makes you wonder, what are those things for you? What helps you disconnect and come back refreshed?
For me, it's carving out time for creative writing, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. It helps me tap into a different part of my brain and de-stress.
I love that. For me, it's getting out into nature, whether it's hiking, gardening, or just taking a walk in the park. Being surrounded by greenery does wonders for my mental clarity. Okay, so we've talked about Tepper's approach to work, but what about his inspirations? Who inspires a tech leader like him? Well, prepare to be surprised because one of his biggest inspirations is Walt Disney.
Walt Disney. Now, that's not who I expected.
I know, right? But when you really think about it, it makes sense. Tepper admires Disney's boundless creativity, his grand vision, and his ability to create those experiences that people love and remember. Those qualities are just as relevant in the tech world as they are in entertainment. It's about building something that sparks joy and makes a difference in people's lives.
It's interesting how seemingly unrelated fields can actually have so much in common.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of Tepper's reading list, which he touched on in the interview. He mentioned a couple of books that I thought were really interesting. The first was The Great Influenza, which gives a chillingly relevant look at the 1918 pandemic and highlights just how crucial scientific progress is, especially in times of crisis.
Especially relevant given what the world has gone through recently.
Right. It makes you think. The other book he mentioned was The Year 1000, which challenges our assumptions about history and shines a light on a period that's often dismissed as the Dark Ages. But what the book shows is that even in those times, there was incredible interconnectedness between civilizations, innovation, and new ideas.
It's like we were saying earlier, there's always more to learn, always a different perspective to consider. It's about embracing that diversity of thought, just like Tepper champions diversity in the tech world.
Exactly. And speaking of learning and growth, I think Tepper saved his best piece of advice for last. He shared this incredible African proverb that really resonated with me, and I think it will with you too. He said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh, I love that. It's so simple yet so profound.
Right. And it applies to so much more than just work,
Yeah.
don't you think? In a world that often feels increasingly isolating, it's a powerful reminder of the importance of collaboration, of building something greater than ourselves together. It's about the power of community and shared purpose.
It makes you think, in a world that's, obsessed with speed and like individual achievement, are we sometimes sacrificing the long game? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like the stuff that requires us to really join forces
Right.
and build something, bigger than ourselves.
It's a question worth pondering, for sure. And maybe that's the most valuable takeaway from our deep dive into Jeff Tepper's world today. It's not just about the tech, the strategies, or even the productivity hacks, though those are all interesting in their own right.
Right.
It's about something big.
Yeah, it's about that human element, right?
Precisely. It's about recognizing that even in the fast-paced world of technology, real progress often requires us to slow down, connect with others, and work together towards a common goal. It's about remembering that sometimes the most important journeys are the ones we take together.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the mind of a tech leader. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.